Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast Yalla, the podcast of Jewish students, brought to you by UJS. I'm Edward, the president of UJS, and I'm joined today by Edgar.
Hello, I'm Edgar, president of Bristol JSOC, and we are delighted to welcome Joe Woolf, founder of Tasty Mates and recently starred on the BBC's Dragon's Den. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's great to have you.
So yeah, maybe we should start by chatting a bit about your life story, what you've been up to. Can you tell us about a bit about your upbringing, where you're from, which community you're part of, what you've been involved in?
Sure, yeah. So I mean, I was GFS boy, very much. I sort of like just went through GFS, sort of, I'd say very middle of the road. Had to work hard to get your B's and C's. Loved school, absolutely loved school, and then sort of towards the end of it, got quite involved in FZY. I was quite involved in FZY, led the camps, led tour. Went to Nottingham University to study archaeology and geography, which has clearly helped me massively. Then finished university and became Mazkir of FZY. Did that for a couple of years. And towards the end of my time at FZY, came up with the idea for Tasty Mates, which we started working on, and I guess left FZY, needed a job, went into PR very briefly, and then after about 6 months, jumped out and started Tasty Mates properly.
Wow. So you said so you said middle of the road JFS and then coming to university. Were you involved with JSOC at all, or?
So I'd go to events. I'd go to Friday night dinners occasionally in Nottingham. I don't know if it's still now the same, but there was JSOC and Chabad was quite big there. And I think there was even a chaplaincy there as well. I think there was 3 different Genesis. There was loads of different options for us. So we'd sort of just go wherever the cool speakers were or the good food was.
Yeah.
Was fairly involved for sure.
Nice. What would you say are some of your favorite memories or things that you can particularly remember from Nottingham that made it?
I had the best time at university. I think going into it, like I said, I did archaeology and geography, which essentially is just an excuse to go to university, right? Like, no offense to anyone doing geography or archaeology.
Tune out now.
Yeah. I was there partly because yes, I wanted to get a degree because I didn't know what I wanted to do next, and I thought, getting a certificate which had a grade on it would stand in good stead. But actually, I was there because I wanted to learn more about me, learn more about what I wanted to do. And so I got very involved in all that extracurricular stuff. I was president of the halls in first year, which just got me involved in that sort of like organizing events and speaking to different stakeholders and speaking on stage and feeling more confident doing that sort of stuff. So definitely got involved. And then towards the end of, in second year, me and a couple of friends started a club night at university. So we found a bar that was fairly quiet on a Tuesday night, which was the night where there was no Crisis or Ocean or whatever the nights were. And we took it over every Tuesday and we sold tickets to different societies, different students, and the bar was loving it because they would take all the money from the drink sales, and we were loving it because it gave us our first little taste of business.
Yeah.
And actually, funnily enough, one of the guys who I ran that with was also on Dragon's Den this series. We'd lost absolute contact until about 6 months ago when he called me up and was like, Joe, I've just seen your sweets all over the place at a studio in Manchester. Were you on? And I was like, yeah. So then we got in contact again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And what were some of the more challenging moments you think for yourself at university?
I think ultimately, like the degree, I found really hard. Not necessarily because it wasn't always enjoyable, but I was doing a course where I'd never done archaeology before. I didn't really know what it was. My plan was honestly to quit the archaeology side and focus on straight geography after a few months. But I did the archaeology and geography because I wasn't going to get the grades at school to do straight geography. I wasn't smart enough. Even if I worked really hard, I was never going to get the 3 A's or whatever it was. So I think honestly, I found the academic side quite hard. I'd have, I remember late nights working in the library. I wasn't very good at focusing. So if there was something else going on, if it was a nice day, I'd be outside. I couldn't work in the day if it was hot. I'd be outside having an ice cream or sitting in the garden or whatever. But I knew I had to work, and I'd probably spend, I don't know, 7 p.m. until 3 in the morning sometimes in the library. But focusing, I think, was probably my biggest challenge.
For sure. And so you need geography, archaeology, you're running club nights, getting involved with running other events through your halls as well. How did that all kind of come together and then lead you to then run to be Muzkir of SZY?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was super involved in SZY. Like, I absolutely loved it. I was very, I'd led camps. I'd led tour twice. I'd was the, like, I don't know what they call it now, but the representative in Nottingham responsible for organising the FZY events or whatever. And it was just the obvious path. And I mean, I remember when I was in year 12 doing Hadracha, and the movement team then was always like, oh, you'll run for Muzkir one day. So it was like, it was almost, I was a bit indoctrinated, wasn't I? Like, it was put in my head from
You've heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly. Put in my head from an early stage. But, I loved it. I loved the movement. I loved everything it stood for. I genuinely believe in everything it stands for. And people will watch this and be like, "There's no ideology or whatever." But like, it's a really amazing movement to be a part of. And I think also, it's a community, and that's what I think we get from you guys, from UJS or from FCY, from any of the youth movements or societies you get involved in at university.
Because I assume you probably would have known people going into uni from FZY and then carried on those friendships.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah. I lived with, in my third year, there was a house of 7 boys, of which 4 of us led Israel tour with FZY. 2 of us led it twice. So, and actually, out of the other 3, one of them had led camp with FZY, and the other 2 had been on tours and stuff. So we were, very heavily involved, I would say.
That's really good.
And how would you say that leadership role at, for a pretty young age helped you then transition towards setting up your own business and then moving into the professional world?
Yeah, it was the transferable skills I got from everything I did with youth movements, undeniable. From an early stage of being involved in camps and tour, the organization side of things, the managing personalities, like whether that's Chanachim, whether that's other Madrachim, whether that's senior Sevet, whatever it is, you're managing totally different personalities, and you're gonna have to relationships are I would say pivotal in being successful, not just in business, in life. So that's definitely helped. Public speaking massively. I mean, we'll get to it, I'm sure, but I genuinely think if it wasn't for leading tour, I would have been a lot more nervous going in to speak in front of the Dragons and stuff like that. It's not as hard speaking to 5 adults as 40 annoying kind of him. I think, yeah, that side of things for sure. But then also, like, when you become Muzkir, you're getting involved in budgeting, you're getting involved in like programming. Often we'd have these ideas that were like so far-fetched as a movement team, and we'd be told by the executive director, yeah, do it, as long as you can find the money for it. It's ideologically relevant, like you can get the kind of him that sign up to it. So all these aspects, essentially, are project management, and basically starting a business is project managing.
Amazing. And so Tasty Mates, how did it come about?
Yeah.
What was the genesis for it? And where do you see it going in the future?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess it came about from I used to always write business plans. In fact, I remember specifically going into I was a movement worker at the time, going into the FZY office, and my colleagues, Josh, Jesse, Dagan, they'd all be sitting there, and I'd go in on a Monday morning and be like, guys, I've had the most insane idea. It's going to be like, this is the business plan. I've written a 30-page business plan. And Josh would look at it and go, Joe, like, Uber already exists, or like Deliveroo already exists, and I'm like, oh yeah, fair. So like I'd have these ideas, and I'd spend nights writing these business plans, and eventually I came in with this plan for Tasty Mates, and I showed it to them, and one of Jessie turned around to me and was like, Joe, actually this one might actually have legs. And as soon as she said that, I remember it so clearly. I was like, great, I'm running with this. So the idea was that it's sweets, right? But for us, like at Tasty Mates, but also for me and for my business partner Nick, who was also heavily involved in UJS and the community, like mates and friendship and being there for your friends is so it's integral. It's essential. And so that's the sort of message we're pushing. And yes, it's sweets right now, but that doesn't mean we have to stop at sweets. We see Tasty Mates as a lifestyle brand, and we're starting to do new things which really expand what it is that we're doing and that message we're spreading. And whether that is podcasts that we're recording at the moment that are coming out and have started to come out, whether that is events which and communities we're forming, which ultimately comes back to my experience of being in a community, and whether that's other products down the line, partnerships. It's really exciting to see where Tasty Mates goes next, but it won't just be stuck at sweets forever, that's for sure.
Yeah, so just to pick you up on the earlier point of how it all started. So you said you draw business plans out and think on these things. Was it creating businesses for the sake of creating businesses, or was it just you really wanted to get yourself out there and engage with the professional world and looking for that?
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it. Honestly, I think I enjoyed the process of like, I've got this idea, how do we make it happen? And I think also like that's something that was relevant, and I didn't know it at the time, but was something that I strived at from when I did movement work, right? Like we'd have this idea, multiple times would come in and be like, have this idea for, let's take Bog Rim seminar and let's put it in Europe, right? Like before every bog sem I ever went on was in Birmingham or Leeds or London. I remember camping on the FSY office floor one bog sem, and coming into it and being like, let's go to Europe. Why not? We could learn so much about Rome and Budapest and all the Jewish. And the executive director was like, sure, find the money and you can do it. So it was a case of like, okay, how do we make this affordable? How do we make this relevant for students? So I think the project management and the putting up these cool ideas into reality was something I really enjoyed. And so when it came to business, it was, okay, we've got this idea. Now let's work out how do you get from A to B.
So on the other side of that screen, there's a student who wants to set up a business. What's your message in what are the challenges they're going to face, and what skills do they have to gather to face those challenges?
Every day's a challenge. Don't go into it thinking it's going to be plain sailing. Don't go into it thinking in 3 years you're going to make £1 million. You're not. You might never make £1 million. That's the honest truth, and that's okay, right? Like you're not going into business. You shouldn't go into business to make the big money. You might get very lucky and be the next Elon Musk or whatever, but you're not necessarily going to. And if you go into that, that's the wrong reason to go into it, because you need to be passionate about what you're doing. So I'd say there's two things. I'd say the things you want is whatever it is you go into, you need to genuinely be passionate about it, because there are many days, even when you're super passionate about what you're doing, and I would say what we're doing is, yes, sweets, but I'm not passionate about sweets. I'm passionate about communities and friendships and being there for your mates. So find the passion and run with that. And even when you find the passion, there will be days where you are like, why am I doing this? And it's just getting over those days. And think about your reputation now, from as early as you can, because there will be someone in 5 years, 10 years that you meet whose uncle knows this person or whatever, and I mean, we're in a very small community, right? Like you can go around to a Friday night dinner, you can have this idea, and someone will say at Friday night, oh, I'm thinking of investing in this business, and if their cousin is sitting at the table and says, oh, you don't want to invest in that person, they once, I don't know, did this or whatever, it's going to screw you over. So think about your reputation from as early as you are watching this.
Amazing. I feel like we've held back the conversation till now, but maybe we should turn to Dragon's Den and all that entails and how you found that. So can you just talk us through how that kind of came about?
Yeah, I mean, so we were actually approached for the last season of Dragon's Den, and it was a researcher reached out to us on our sort of generic email account, and we were kind of like, no, we're not ready for this. Like, we don't want the world knowing everything about the business. We don't want our numbers to be broadcasted, and frankly, like, we weren't quite sure what we were yet. And so we left it. And then I was watching the last season and I was like, oh, do you know what? It's a bucket list. What's the worst that could happen, right? So I just emailed the person who reached out to us and said, listen, when you come round to planning for next season, just keep us in mind. And about a month later, they messaged me being like, look, we're now finding businesses. Would you like to have the first the interview? I'm sure people can apply, by the way, on directly. We got fairly lucky in terms of being found on LinkedIn or whatever. But we had that interview. It went well. There was some, like, they're looking for people that they get on with, right? They don't care about the business. They care about TV.
Right.
So we got on well and we got through and we did due diligence, and then we got a call about 2 weeks before saying, hey, can you get down to Manchester on, I think it was like the 4th of June or something. This was last year, so we filmed quite a while ago. So we had 2 weeks to prep, learn the pitch, learn the numbers, decide what the display looked like, get new clothes because you couldn't wear anything branded and you couldn't wear this color and you couldn't wear stripes and all that. There's like all these restrictions. And then went there, got to Manchester to film on the Sunday night. They put us up in a hotel with 3 other brands actually were there that night. And we went to the studio 7:30 in the morning on the Monday and didn't get into pitch until I think 4:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Early start.
Yeah, it was an early start and it was a long day, and that whole morning was very much like, the walk through the lift. We did that at 10:30 in the morning, obviously after a hell of a lot of hair and makeup, and we did the interview was before, and you do practice in front of the producers and they tell you that you can't say this and you've got to cut this, and then went into pitch at 4:30. Didn't get out of the pitch until I think about 6:15, so it was almost 2 hours pitching to the Dragons non-stop. Like, there was no cuts, there was no can you say that, can you say this again? It was just like one run through, asking questions. It was intense. Wow. And then we were fortunate enough to get the offer from Peter. We entered a 10-minute negotiation with Peter on the money. I know it looks like, I don't know if you've seen it, but it looks like I was like, yes, Peter, whatever you want, Peter.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, I think to an extent, like, you're on the show and there's 80 brands go on it a year and only 50 odd get on TV. So if you shake hands, you're getting on TV. So there was partly in my head was like, just get on TV, because what's the point of all this if you're not going to get the publicity for it? Part of it was also like, do you know what? Like, I don't know if this is the right deal. To sit around the table and speak to Peter again after. And like you shake hands, but it's not contract, right? Like you enter negotiations after. So yeah, the negotiations we had were about 10 minutes. We spoke about non-dilution clauses, buybacks, dividends, all these like business things which don't make good TV, I understand. But that was, it was in there for about an hour, probably close to 2 hours. Left, had a little interview at the end, and then went backstage and sat down in the dressing room and just was like, done, like, relax. And I drove back to London that night.
Wow.
Do you have anything you can share that didn't feature in the show, but was, maybe some highlights, something you didn't expect?
Oh, wow. Wait, in the studio?
Yeah.
I mean, the lift's not real. I hate to break it to you. Yeah.
Shocking.
That's like the big, it's 2 sliding doors. BBC probably won't love me for saying that.
No,
but
I always thought it was real lift.
Again, you've heard it here first.
Yeah. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Dragon's Den lift does not exist.
Yeah,
Across the screen.
Yeah. Look, I think the whole thing was ultimately they're making TV, right? Like, I think if I look at the edit, there were some things I was disappointed at. Like, there was no mention of the products being vegan, right? They set on this like moments with mates thing as like the whole essence of us, and there was a little bit of crafty TV work where different answers were put to different questions and stuff like that. But ultimately, most people watch it and aren't remembering the answers I said to questions and aren't remembering the questions that were asked to me. They watch it, they're like, oh, that's sweet brand. They're like, oh, you got the offer. Like, so ultimately it's been amazing. But in terms of what you see, it's TV.
So have you seen Peter since? What's it been like working with him, if at all, so far?
Yeah. So we work with his team more than him. We've probably met 3-4 times since the show. We're still in negotiations of what the actual deal will look like. So nothing's formalized yet. So it's been very informal conversations. But it's great to have his email and his contact details and as a mentor more than anything, to be honest.
Yeah. And you were so I mean, right after the show, what was the impact on the business? Did it grow?
Yeah, it was crazy watching it. I mean, we opened our Shopify like on the laptop next to where I was watching it, and you could literally see, and I've got screen recordings of this, the numbers on our website jumping from 2 like before the show to 20, 30,000. Like it was just and it was going up and it was just crazy to watch. Look, we've been very fortunate. Some things all came off at the same time. Dragons came out completely coincidentally. They only told us 10 days before the show was about to air that we'd even made it onto the show in the final edit. But we have been launched a new product in partnership with, I don't know if you know Simon Squibb. He's an influencer. And so that's come off at the same time. So we've got his audience coming in. We launched a Paddington Bear range as well in partnership with Paddington. So there's been so many things happening at the same time that it's actually a little bit hard to track what's coming from what.
Right. It's good.
But it's good. Yeah. Ultimately, it's been it's definitely been an amazing experience, and it's now about how do we take that and keep growing and maintaining that momentum and really do what we want to do, which is that community side of things.
Yeah.
So 5 years time, what's happening with Tasty Mates?
Who bloody knows? like legit, who knows? And I kind of think that's the exciting thing. Like honestly, if you'd asked me, I don't know, 3 months ago, and you said like you're starting this podcast, right? Like I would have probably said no, there's no time for that. But the beauty of doing it for yourself is and this is probably the thing that Nick, my business partner, hates about me, is I'll wake up one Monday and be like, Nick, mate, we're launching a podcast, or Nick, I've got this idea for these boxes. We're launching these boxes soon, or we're talking about entering a new market with our sweets and trying to bring out new ranges of not just sweets but new categories even in the food space. And I don't want to give too much away on that just in case it doesn't happen, but like these ideas are constantly evolving. I think if I'm realistic, I think in 5 years I want to focus much more on partnerships. We've done this partnership with Simon Squibb, we've done this partnership with Paddington, and they are proving really fruitful for us. And also it plays into that thing of community and bringing their communities into ours. But like it wouldn't when I launched, I remember saying in an investor meeting once, they were like, where do you see this brand in 5 years? I said, I want to have a theme park. So like, look, we probably won't have a theme park in 5 years unless anyone wants to fund it. But who knows, right? Like Disney started off as a mouse and they've got theme parks. IKEA started off as a pen, right? Like it was literally a biro. So yeah, who knows? As long as we're staying like core to our mission of like powering meaningful moments with mates, it could go anywhere.
Amazing. Did you have a dragon in mind before you went on the show that you wanted to have a deal with?
It was always Peter or Stephen.
Oh really?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh
for
wow.
Sure. Yeah, I had my little pictures of like if one of them said to me, who do you want? Like I had an idea for all of them, just to like not burn my bridges, but yeah, Peter or Stephen.
That's good.
Amazing. Should we head to some maybe quick fire questions
Let's
before we bring it to a close? Go on, do you want to take this bit?
I'll do quick fire questions. Okay. First one, favorite Jewish food?
Oh wow. Shawarma.
Shawarma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I do like a Lokshen pudding. That's quite Jewish?
Lokshen pudding?
Yeah.
Is it?
Do you know?
Lokshen pudding?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know what that is?
I mean,
Is that really rogue?
I think we might have to head down to
it's
Kosher
right.
Kingdom after this.
Oh,
Hey, that's us to sound.
Yeah.
Lokshen
Okay.
Yeah. My grandma's Lokshen pudding. Unbelievable.
All right.
Next one. What's your favorite song that you listen to at the moment?
I'm loving this song. It's called Good Morning, and I can't remember who it's by. It is. I listen to it every morning, and it sets the tone for the day. It's insane. I'll find out the artist, and I'll tell you after.
Okay, fine. Biggest role model?
Wow. Look, I think I've been very fortunate in life to have like a lot of people to look up to and sort of like see that as a path. But I think if I'm honest, like I think I was growing up, I was very fortunate to have my dad he works for him. He's a lawyer and his time is his own. And I think that's one thing that I want to have in my life. I want to be able to go to the gym when I want to go to the gym. I want to go to like he always came to our school plays or our sports days and stuff like that. And I think that's something really important. And that's why for me, having my own business is like amazing.
So dad, biggest role
Yeah,
model.
why not?
Great. Next one. You're stuck on an island. 3 items. Bringing with you.
And discs. 3 items I'm bringing with me.
Bag of Tasty Mates.
Yeah, well, yeah. Why not? I'm hoping they're sold in the local kiosk. What am I bringing with me? Oh, I don't. Is there charging sockets?
Is there charging sockets?
You know what? You know what? A book. Why not? A book. A
Okay.
book.
Any particular book?
Do you know what? I'm reading Red Notice at the moment by Bill
Okay.
Browder. It's taken me, I must say, it's taken me about 6 months to finish a book that most people
You've been
probably
busy.
finish in a week or so. But oh, this is a great question. Coffee. I need a coffee in the morning. Yeah, like enough coffee forever. And
So I'm hearing prep subscription basically.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
why not? And I think like actually, I think a pen and paper. Can that be one item?
Sure, we can go for it.
Yeah,
Go
why-
for it.
yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna bring a pen by itself. I mean,
Well, you could write on trees, I guess.
I guess
or-
so. Yeah.
I just like I think it's important to
The
write
ideas down.
Yeah, write things down. Yeah,
Business plans.
business plans,
Theme park
moods,
ideas.
like how you're feeling. Like just write. Like what's the worst that could happen? Chuck it in the bin if you don't like it.
Amazing.
Good.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thank you.
This has really been one of a really enjoyable podcast to record, and we hope that the students listening learn a huge amount from everything from what you can get from Jewish leadership, how that can lead to Dragon's Den, and much more beyond that. And it was amazing to hear about plans for the future. So thank you so much for joining
Amazing.
us.
Definitely.
Really appreciate it.
And before you head off, we've got something for you.
They're not tasty mates.
Not Tasty Mates,
But
but
it's
So I've
close
had
enough.
enough of them.
It's a Yalla mug that you just is very
lovely.
I was gonna unwrap it, but it's pretty
Matty
tightly
Fish
packed.
has sealed it
So-
very well.
Very
It's
well.
there, it's
preserved.
in there,
Thank
it's
you. Yeah,
definitely in
it's
there.
not just a plain box.
No,
with loads of-
that's our pitch. Yeah.
Amazing.
No, thank you so much. It's great to meet you and speak to
Amazing.
you, and hope that you enjoyed another episode of Yalla. Tune in sometime soon.